Hello and welcome back to another F1 quick roundup. This is what I want to try and do. As much as I can, I'm not going to be able to watch all 23 F1 races this year. There's just not a possibility. It's basically half a year, practically. Not going to be able to do all of them, but here we are. We're here for Saudi. And where else do we begin other than, realistically, the bombing or the attack from Yemen at Armaco? I think that's how you say it, or Aramco, one or the other. But there was a bombing at the start of the weekend. A war what no one's spoken about. The war between Yemen and Saudi, what's been going on for 7 years. And they decided to attack why the biggest event probably of Saudi this year is going off. What basically they got blackmailed to race this weekend. Essentially, from what's coming out, they essentially got blackmailed to race. That's what happens when you go to Saudi and you give these people with no human rights and all this, all the money to host an F1 race. Didn't agree with us racing, but at the end of the day, we did. So let's talk about it. First off, qualifying. Mick's horrific crash. The tethers failed on his car quite clearly when he had his accident. Halo, thank God for that. Thank God for the halo. But he's out, he's okay. And the only reason really Hassa, they didn't race this weekend with him was they're running out of parts, essentially. So they decided not to race, save the car for Australia, make sure it's a precaution for Mick, because it was a horrible, horrible crash. Glad he's okay. Now let's move on to the race. So the race, first lap, was really clean. I was expecting at least a bit of carnage. Both first laps for both Grand Prix have been really clean. There's not been any damage to any car. There's not been any upside down cars or pushing each other too much. Talking about pushing each other too much though, Sainz got a really good start. Was sort of on the outside of Leclerc. Did give him a bit of a squeeze, what made Verstappen get ahead of him. And on top of that, Zhou's unfortunate anti-lag. I mean, Zhou's race overall was just one to forget because he had a drive-through penalty. He had a 5-second penalty for overtaking Albon and gaining advantage what it wasn't seen on the cameras. Then he thought he took the penalty, and then it was saying that he didn't take the penalty, so he had to have a drive-through. One to forget for Zhou, but he's new, so he can move on pretty quickly, I think. I think he'll get through it. Now, going into the race, we had the almighty battle of the pink cars. That's right. Arkon versus Alonso went on for so many laps. At one point, Arkon did a very late move on his teammate. Was maybe a bit too aggressive. Again, it is his teammate. It's only the second race. You don't want to be making sour grapes so early. But Alonso, being Alonso, wasn't having it. Eventually got past. But it carried on even when he got past. It carried on, and then Bottas joined, and then Magnussen joined, and then Ocon got overtaken by Bottas. It was probably, for me, that's probably the highlight battle, especially on the early stage, because obviously later on, what we'll talk about, there was a bigger battle and a lot of playing silly buggers this season, I would say. Oh, this race. Then, Ferrari announced that Leclerc to pit. Obviously, it was on the main feed, so Red Bull are hearing that they're going to pit. Perez in front pits. Leclerc does the opposite. He continues. He carries on, and what a smart decision it was in the end, because Latifi, again, I'm talking about Zhou having a weekend to forget. He crashed out in Q3, and this crash, it was very, very strange. It's like his car's just got a magnet what's pulling it towards the barriers, because he went around the last corner and it just had a bit of oversteer and just nosedived straight into the barrier. Very strange, but because of that, the virtual safety car came out, which means everyone jumped into the pits other than Hamilton, Magnussen, and I think it was Ricciardo, because Ricciardo already pitted. So they all dived into the pits. Perez fell foul of it. He went down to fourth. So then it was Leclerc, Max. Well, actually, no. I lie. Perez didn't go down to fourth. Forgot to write this one down. But obviously, Perez gained an unfair advantage and squoze Sainz out on the exit of the pit lane. Although he did give the position back afterwards. So it would end up Sainz, Perez. But it was an unfair advantage. The steward said, basically, well, the stewards aren't, you're not allowed to talk to the stewards now, so essentially Red Bull had to sort it out themselves. And then I'm going to call this the cursed lap, because out of nowhere, Alonso lost power. Ricciardo lost power. And I don't know what happened to Bottas, but he also retired all on lap 37. It's got to be said, it's the cursed lap. 3 cars DNF all on the one lap. Because Danny Rick's car broke down literally on the last corner. He couldn't get the car back in the pit lane. He basically parked it on the entry of the pit lane. Then Alonso trickled his car all the way around the circuit to the entry of the pit lane. And then Bottas retired inside it. But this also caused an issue for Hamilton. Hamilton couldn't pit because I think it was the last one on the circuit who hadn't pit yet. And basically the pit lane was shut. Luckily it stayed as a VSC, so he could still pit, and he ended up 10th because he had a bit of a gap. But it could have been better if he could get in that pit lane when he was meant to, but the team asked him 200 metres too late. But then we get to the ending, and the ending was quite cool, but this is where I'll mention the silly buggers as well. The exact same thing what happened last year when they were fighting for the DRS line on that final corner. They were braking extra early to let one ahead, and then so essentially, by the way, this is between Max and with Max and Charles. So Charles let Max through on the final corner, but quick enough so he could get the DRS. Then he overtakes him on the straight. Next lap comes around. Now, Max is aware of what Charles is doing, so they both decide to play silly buggers. Again, 2 years in a row we're playing silly buggers for this DRS line. But Charles is on the outside. They both lock up, but Charles gets on the power quick enough and around the corner quick enough, so he's still ahead. And then eventually, Max got Charles, and Max got Charles for the win. It was quite good. It was a very good race. The middle was rather boring. Even though we had some overtakes, it wasn't really for anything. But overall, good race. Still don't agree with racing with what happened, but that's what happens when you do stuff with someone who don't do like human rights. But anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoy this. It's like I say, it's just a quick roundup. If you do like it, hit the like button, subscribe for more of this, Like I say, I'm not going to be able to do all 23, but enjoy, and, well, goodbye.